Ever waited ages for someone and wondered if you'd missed something big? Today's episode tackles punctuality, lateness, and how we manage time essential for the IELTS speaking test. I'm Jack Turner, your examiner host.
And I'm Emma Collins, IELTS student, ready for another speaking mock test. We'll talk about arriving on time, cultural attitudes, and how technology affects punctuality. Plus, I'll share how waiting for a friend nearly ruined our concert night.
We'll run through a full IELTS speaking mock test, quickfire interview, a story about waiting for someone late, deeper discussion questions, a vocabulary review, and a speaking tip you won't want to miss.
So grab your timer and get ready. We're starting right now with the IELTS speaking test on punctuality and time culture.
Good morning. My name is Jack Turner. Can you tell me your full name, please?
Of course. My name is Emma Collins.
Thank you, Emma. Let's talk about time. Would you say you're usually a punctual person?
Yes, for the most part. I actually hate the feeling of rushing somewhere at the last minute, so I normally try to arrive about 10 minutes early. Having said that, public transport occasionally throws my plans off.
Is it important for people to arrive on time where you live?
I'd say so, especially for work, appointments, or formal events. If you're meeting close friends, people tend to be a little more flexible, but turning up half an hour late without saying anything would probably be considered quite rude.
Have you ever been very late for something important?
Unfortunately, yes. I was once late for a job interview because my train was cancelled. I was absolutely panicking, but I called the company straight away and explained what had happened. Luckily, they were understanding.
What do you normally do if you know you're going to be late?
I send a message as soon as possible. I think keeping someone in the dark is worse than being a few minutes late. Even a quick message saying, "I'm running behind," shows that you respect the other person's time.
Do you think you have become better at managing your time as you've got older?
Definitely. When I was younger, I seriously underestimated how long things would take. These days, I build in a bit of extra time for unexpected delays. It sounds simple, but it makes my day much less stressful.
Nice use of vocabulary there, especially build in extra time. Now, let's move on to part 2. You'll have 1 minute to prepare and some prompts to guide your answer.
All right, I'm ready for the cue card. Let's do it.
Describe a time when you had to wait for someone who was late. You should say who you were waiting for, where you were, how long you waited, and explain how you felt about the situation. You have 1 minute to prepare.
I'm going to talk about a time I had to wait for one of my closest friends before we went to a concert together. This happened about a year ago. We had arranged to meet outside a train station at around 6 in the evening because the concert started at 7:30. I arrived slightly early, which is pretty typical for me, but my friend was nowhere to be seen. At first, I wasn't bothered because I assumed she would arrive within 5 or 10 minutes. However, about 20 minutes passed, and I started getting slightly anxious. I checked my phone several times, but she hadn't sent me a message. Eventually, she called and told me that she had got on the wrong bus and was on the other side of town. I think I ended up waiting for about 45 minutes altogether. To be fair, she was incredibly apologetic when she arrived, so I couldn't stay annoyed for very long. We still managed to get to the venue before the main performer came on, although we missed part of the opening act. Looking back, it was more stressful than anything else. I wasn't really angry about waiting. I was worried that we were going to miss something we had both been looking forward to for months. Since then, whenever we arrange something time-sensitive, we double-check the meeting point beforehand. So, in a strange way, the experience taught us to plan a little better.
That's a strong example. Do you think waiting feels different when you know why someone is late?
Absolutely. If someone tells me there's been an accident, a transport problem, or something genuinely unavoidable, I'm usually quite patient. What frustrates me is when somebody is late simply because they didn't plan ahead. Can I add one thing?
Of course.
I also think communication makes a huge difference. If someone keeps you updated, the waiting doesn't feel nearly as irritating.
Let's discuss punctuality in a broader sense. Why are some people consistently late?
There can be several reasons. Some people are simply poor at estimating how much time they need. Others try to squeeze too many things into one day. Interestingly, I think technology can contribute as well because people assume they can send a quick message if they're delayed, so punctuality can feel slightly less important.
Do you think being punctual is a sign of respect?
In many situations, yes. If somebody has set aside time to meet you, arriving when you agreed shows that you value their time. Of course, nobody can control every delay, so I wouldn't judge someone for being late occasionally. I think the pattern matters more than one isolated incident.
Are attitudes towards punctuality different across cultures?
Definitely. In some cultures, schedules are followed extremely closely, especially in professional settings. Elsewhere, time can be treated more flexibly, and arriving a little later may be completely normal. So I think people need to be aware of cultural expectations instead of assuming their own habits are universal.
Has technology made people better or worse at managing time?
Probably both. Calendar apps, reminders, and navigation tools make planning much easier. At the same time, smartphones are full of distractions. You might check one notification and suddenly realize you've spent 20 minutes scrolling. So the technology itself is useful, but it depends on how disciplined the person is.
Should schools teach children more about time management?
Yes, I think that would be genuinely useful. Students are often told to meet deadlines, but they aren't necessarily taught how to break a large task into smaller steps or prioritize competing responsibilities. Those are practical skills they'll need throughout adulthood.
How might our relationship with time change in the future?
I imagine technology will become much better at organizing our schedules automatically. Artificial intelligence might predict delays, rearrange appointments, and remind us when we need to leave. But, ironically, the more efficient technology becomes, the more people may expect everything to happen instantly. So we might actually become less patient.
Excellent. That is the end of the speaking test. Let's review a few useful expressions from today's test. Our first phrase is running behind. Emma, what does that mean?
It means you are later than you planned to be. For example, I'm running behind, so I'll be there in about 10 minutes.
Good. Repeat it naturally. I'm running behind.
I'm running behind.
Next we heard keep someone in the dark. What does that mean?
It means not giving someone information about what is happening. If you're going to be late, it's better to contact the person rather than keep them in the dark.
Excellent. Another useful expression was build in extra time.
That means planning additional time in case something unexpected happens. For example, I always build in extra time when I'm traveling to the airport.
And finally, time sensitive.
Something time sensitive needs to happen by a particular time. A flight, interview, exam, or important appointment could all be time sensitive.
Great. Try using each expression in a sentence of your own. Active use will help you remember the vocabulary much more effectively. Before we wrap up, here are 3 key takeaways. First, clear communication is crucial when delays happen. Second, planning ahead, like building in extra time, reduces stress. Third, cultural attitudes towards punctuality can vary, so always check expectations.
If you want to improve your IELTS speaking score, practice extending your answers with the answer reason example method. For instance, don't just say, "You prefer arriving early." Explain why and give a real-life example.
That's our practical step for today. Try building your answers using that structure. Thanks for joining us for this Band 8 IELTS mock test on punctuality and being late.
Keep practicing, focus on clear examples, and remember, being on time is always a great impression. See you next session.